Hi, this is Richard Hall here from Stonehenge, Aotearoa, and let's get the laptop back on again. And this is our night sky fire, looking at January and February. Always at the beginning here, I'd like to thank Dan Broughton of Wairarapa Web Design, who supports this program. And of course, the night sky is something very, very special. This next picture coming up is actually just a photograph just taken from the one of our roads, just so as somebody was travelling through the Wairarapa. And we look up at that Milky Way, and we tend to take these things for granted, you know. Remember, 80% of the people in the world have never seen the Milky Way. So this is something very, very special. And as some of you may be aware, we are all in the process of working our way across the Wairarapa to turn this entire Wairarapa into a dark sky reserve. And if that happens, we will be the biggest dark sky star place in the world. And so that's what we're aiming at. It doesn't mean doing away with lighting. It's a matter of putting in the correct lighting, and we've got lots of lovely support from the councils and so on. So that's what we're working on at the moment, and I'll keep you informed as we gradually develop these ideas. Of course, we're also developing lots of things at Stonehenge to work in with this, and I'll be talking about that towards the end of the programme. Anyway, remember that we have this wonderful night sky that we're looking at, and for those of you who are on TV, you've just seen the wonderful picture looking north, looking at the stars that we can see, and almost directly north is if you go out in the evening, early evening, is a constellation of Orion. Now, I guess Orion is probably the best known constellation in the world, and the reason for that, the three stars that run along the what they call the belt of Orion, down here in New Zealand we call the pot. But you've always got to remember that Orion is upside down, as all the constellations are as we see it from here. But those stars are very, very important because they lay across what we call the celestial equator. And that's just there. And that means that those stars, those three belt stars, always rise absolutely due east and set absolutely due west. So they are navigational beacons. But it also means from that, because those stars lay across, or Orion's belt lays across the celestial equator, that particular constellation is visible from either the northern or southern hemisphere. And I guess it's one of the most well-known constellations simply because of so many wonderful objects that we can find in there. And we'll take you through looking at some of these things now. Okay, here's our night sky. If we move up from Orion along the belt stars, the three belt stars, we come to Sirius, which is the brightest star in the sky. And by that I mean that it's, as a star, if there's anything brighter than Sirius, it's not a star, it'll be a planet. And at the moment, Jupiter, if Jupiter's around, or Mars is around, or Saturn, they can rival Sirius. However, when I say Sirius is the brightest star in the sky, what you got to remember that our sun is a star, and it appears exceedingly bright because it's our star. We're close to it. And when you look up at these other stars in the sky, they all vary, all of different brightnesses. Well, that could be for two reasons. Either they're different distances, or they are different in brightnesses themselves. All right. Now, Sirius is the brightest nearby star. It's only about just over 8.5 light years away. I say just over 8. That's a pretty great distance as far as we're concerned here on Earth. In other words, if you were travelling at the speed of light, some sent out that's going to take 8.5 years to get there. So when we look at Sirius, we see it as it was over 8 years ago. Sirius is a hotter star than the Sun, slightly more massive, and it's about 26 times brighter than the Sun. But what makes Sirius particularly famous, it's also known as the dog star, and I'll tell you about the dog at a later date, but it's got a companion which is called the pup. Now, you won't be able to see this with the unaided eye. It's a very faint star close to Sirius, but it's an amazing star because when astronomers began to study it in detail, they discovered that this star, well, it's not much bigger than the Earth. You know, remember the Sun is so big that you could fit over 1 million Earths inside it. This star is about the same size as the Earth, but when they weighed its mass by calculating as it orbits around its other companion, it's got the same amount of matter as the Sun, all compressed into a region of something the size of the Earth. So that means each centimetre of its material weighs tons. And the other interesting thing, it's made mostly of carbon, and it is gradually cooling. It is actually the as it were, the corpse of a once brighter star. So once upon a time, the Sirius system had a much brighter star. It's burnt out, and this is just the core that's left over. And that core is gradually cooling, and it's already beginning to crystallise. And of course, made in carbon, what is it turning into? It's turning into a diamond, but a diamond the size of the Earth. But don't have any grand ideas that we might be able to go out and mine diamonds out there on Sirius, because if you landed on the surface of that star, even when it's gone cold in millions of years from now, you would find that you would weigh something in the region of 10,000 tonnes, and you would immediately be flattened over an area the size of a football field. So we can admire these gigantic diamonds from a distance, but we'll never be able to actually have them ourselves. So that's Sirius. But Orion itself is known as the realm of the giants, because all those big bright stars that we can see in Orion, actually they're bright not because they're close to us like Sirius is. They're bright because they are intrinsically very, very luminous stars. Now, before we underestimate our own sun, I must point out to you the vast majority of stars in the galaxy are not as bright as our sun. But because of that very fact, most of them are difficult to see without telescopes and so on. But those ones up in Orion, they are giant stars. And giant stars are very, very rare. The brightest star in Orion is Rigel, and it is literally 1 in a million, all right? 1 in a million stars. You can't miss it if you're looking up there. It's got it's a whitish coloured star, Rigel, and it is a colossal star. Okay, so let's tell you a little bit about it. First of all, it's what we call a blue-white supergiant, because that's its colour, but it's actually 770 light years away. In other words, we see Rigel as it was over 700 years ago. Well, so what I'm saying is, if there were people out there near Rigel, which I can tell you won't because of the nature of the star, but if there was, if they could look at the Earth from there, well, they'd see us as we were about 700 years ago, all right? Anyway, Rigel, as I said, is an absolutely colossal star. The fact that it's still bright in our sky, yet 770 light years, that gives you some clue. And one of the magnificent things about this brilliant star, and for those of you who are on TV now, you can see a photograph of Rigel. You can see that beautiful blue colour, and its energy reflects off of a nearby gas cloud known as the Witch Head Nebula. And I'm sure you can see the Witch Head there from there if you're looking at it. All right. Okay. If we have a closer look at Rigel, right, it's 66,000 times brighter than the sun. So in other words, it's shining with the light of 66,000 suns. Its mass, however, is only 17 times that of the sun, but its diameter is 78 times that. So if you placed Rigel where the sun is, all of the planets in our solar system would vaporise. Right? So it is truly a colossal star. But it's not a single star. Seen through a telescope, you will see that Rigel has got 2 other little stars accompanying it. And each of those stars is, in fact, double stars. So they're what they call binary systems. So actually the Rigel system is a system of 5 stars. But of course, we only see the great big bright one. The other ones there are about the same sort of brightness as Sirius in the sky. Now, Rigel may be the brightest star in Orion, but it's not the largest. Now that goes to this star here. At the opposite side of Rigel, through the belt, is the star of Betelgeuse, which often people call Betelgeuse. Right? It's Betelgeuse. And it's easy to pick out Betelgeuse because unlike the other stars in Orion, it's got a definite reddish hue. Right? And this is an amazing star, it truly is. For those who are watching on TV now, you can now see a photograph of of Betelgeuse taken through the Hubble Space Telescope. And why this is remarkable, that stars are so far away, even on the biggest of telescopes, they often just appear as a dot. But Betelgeuse is so large that Hubble Space Telescope can see it. So when you're looking at this image, you're looking at the surface of the sun, but you'll notice that it doesn't appear to have a well-defined surface like our sun does, and indeed it doesn't. It's an absolutely colossal star. Okay, so having a look at Betelgeuse close up, right, you'd have this big ball of light. It's what we call, unlike Rigel, this is a red supergiant star. It's a star nearing the end of its life. It's consumed all of its energy. Once upon a time it was a blue star, and now it's expanded into a red supergiant. It's 10,500 times brighter than the sun. Right? Its distance is 430 light years, so it's about half the distance that Rigel is. Right? But its diameter, it's a lot cooler than the sun, but it emits a lot of more light because its radiating surface is so large, and its diameter is 936 times that of the sun. So in other words, if you were to place Betelgeuse in our solar system, it would swallow all the planets up and out, and its surface would be out near Jupiter. So all of the inner planets would be inside of it. Absolutely a colossal star. But some strange things have been happening with Betelgeuse. Because it is a red giant star, it does pulsate, and it slowly changes and fluctuates in brightness. But something really weird has been happening with this star at the moment. It's become particularly faint, fainter than ever seen before. It doesn't look as bright as it normally does. And many astronomers have suggested that it may be about to commit suicide in what we call a supernova explosion. And if that happens, that would be pretty extraordinary, because we've never seen one of these in modern times. And supernova is one of the most catastrophic explosions that happens to a giant star near the end of its life. Well, whether that's going to happen or not is very debatable at the moment. All right, but just below the constellation of Orion is the constellation of Taurus, the bull. And in between two of the bright stars of Taurus is a remarkable object. And around about in the year 1054, a supernova, an exploding star, appeared in between these two stars. This star was so bright when it appeared, well, it could be seen in broad daylight. And then slowly, over time, it gradually faded away. It was recorded by people from around the world, but it gradually disappeared from memory. But today, when we turn large telescopes towards this area, we can see this object there, which we call the Crab Nebula. In a small telescope, it does look like a crab. And this is actually the wreck of that star that exploded in the year 1054. The cloud of debris that we can see is over 3 light years in diameter. We now know the distance of that star. That was 6,500 light years away, so considerably more distant than Rigel was. And of course, that's why people didn't see it before until it actually exploded. So its distance is 6,500 light years. And the diameter of that cloud is now 3.5 light years. That's a debris. It's already stretches across the space between us and the nearest star, if you can fit it in there. And it's still expanding at the rate of 1,000 kilometres a second. However, when we look towards the centre of the Crab Nebula, we find or have discovered an absolutely amazing object. Long before we could see anything visibly, astronomers with radio telescopes picked up what they were now just called a pulsar. This was something that was giving out a regular radio burst of energy, in this case 30 times a second. And so what was this weird object that's giving this pulse of powerful radio energy every 30 seconds? Well, with things like the Hubble Space Telescope and the European Space Agency, we can peer into the crab and we see these swirling gases. And right at the centre of these swirling gases is the remnant core of that star. Well, and it's, well, it's even more strange than that object we were looking at Sirius. This is the remnant of a star, a giant star that's exploded, and this is a pulsar. It's what astronomers now call a neutron star. It's so massive that all the atoms have actually been smashed apart inside it, and it's composed virtually just of neutrons. But this star, the core of this star, is actually only about 10 kilometres in diameter, but it contains matter equivalent to several times the mass of the solar system. So it's only about 10 kilometres in diameter, but its mass is equal to 2 times the sun and the planets in mass. This means that its density is absolutely enormous. In fact, each cubic centimetre of this material would weigh 1 trillion tonnes. In fact, this thing is so dense that it actually doesn't only warp space around it, it warps time as well. So if you were to get too close to this star, you would find that time would begin to slow down between you and the rest of the universe there. You can literally time warp around this star. Well, if that star out in Orion turns that way, incidentally, I should mention that what's happening is this core rotates on its axis 30 times a second. And as it does so, it's got cracks on it which send out beams of radio wave. And that's where that pulsar comes from, those pulsing pieces of light whizzing around out there. And it pulses out 30 times a second, which gives us the pulsar. Well, is that going to happen to Betelgeuse? Well, who knows? If it does, it's going to be it'll be something absolutely awesome, because you've got to remember that Betelgeuse is a lot closer. In fact, it's so close that if that star turns supernova, it would turn the night sky into broad daylight. And we'd be having to hope that 400 light years is far enough away that we don't have too many devastating effects here on Earth. Anyway, it's time for me to be quiet for a little while. We're going to play a little bit of music now. Listen by Michelle Toombs.
Listen, listen, listen to the beat
say that again.
In our laptop.
Hi there. A good job I've got this good lady next to me here that's actually doing that. We'll put laptop on again. Okay. Now, I've had lots of other things I was going to tell you about, some of the wonderful things in the Rhine, but I'm going to leave that until next week, or next month rather, when we could be looking at Orion again and all the beautiful regions where new stars are being formed. What I wanted to finish off about is tell you about some of the wonderful programs that we've actually got started here at Stonehenge Aotearoa. We are now running what we call a Stargazer Safari every Friday and Saturday evening. At the moment, in summer, they start at 8 o'clock. We take you on a laser tour of the night sky, and then we take you to have a look at some of these wonderful objects that are in our night sky using large telescopes. So that's every Friday and Saturday evening, starting at 8 o'clock. Good idea to book in, because sometimes we do get a lot of people there, but you have the opportunity now of having a look at those. And so, as I said, we've got some really large telescopes out there, and you'll be amazed at when you have a look at these things in detail, particularly when some of the planets are around. You have a look at Saturn with all the rings and so on. So that's all available every Friday and Saturday evening at Stonehenge. All right, so that's a seafarer's Stargazer Safari that I'm talking about there. In addition to that, we're running courses in astronomy, and we have different ones running each month. We've got one running at the moment. We've just run one, actually. It's going to be, the same course will be run again. It's on the weekend. Next one coming up is January 18th and 19th, and it's a course on telescopes. You might have a telescope at home and not really know how to use it, or you'd like to learn how to use giant telescopes. Well, we have a special poet teaches you all about how to use giant astronomical telescopes and so on. If you've got your own telescope, you can bring that along as well. We can go through that as well. And then you'll have also the opportunity of testing it out in the evening on the magnificent night sky. So that's a telescopes course that's starting again on January 18th and 19th. And as I mentioned earlier, all you need to do is to book up for further information. Just give us a call at Stonehenge Aotearoa or visit our website. Just look up Stonehenge for a website. And, well, we've got another course starting also in February. Looking slightly ahead, we've got the Introduction to Astronomy. And we've got a wonderful lady here who's going to be taking you through the night sky. Again, this one is going to be running on February 15th and 16th. And it will be something that will take you around the heavens, learning all about the basics of astronomy. So if you want to learn all about it, how you can understand what these things are all about and all these wonderful objects, come along to that course there. Again, just contact us at Stonehenge Aotearoa. Finally, I'd just like to talk about, we have the Orion Star Date coming up. 4 times a year, we're going to run a convention out at Stonehenge. It will run for 3 days. This one starts on Friday, February 21st, and runs through to Sunday the 23rd. People can camp out there, caravan out there, and there's going to be a whole program of lectures, talks, workshops, observing, and also hopefully field trips as well. So this is the Orion Star Day. I'll be telling you more about that in the near future. Okay, so... And where it's all being held, of course, is at Stonehenge Aotearoa. And we've got this wonderful site in the Wairarapa, well away from all the city lights. And for those of you watching on TV, that's the red brilliant light there is actually a laser pointer. And we always start the evening off by taking people around the sky and checking out things with laser pointers. And, of course, in addition to that, there will be barbecues and all sorts of other things going on. So anyway, I'd just like to finish off by mentioning it's at the moment Stonehenge Aotearoa is open 7 days a week at the moment. We've got a brand new analemma placed there. Come and have a look at it, which shows all the zones of the zodiac, the Chinese zodiac and so on. That's just been installed because it's a place where we're always creating new bits and pieces. But we're going to be open from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. every day throughout January, and then on February for Wednesday to Sunday. And having said that, I say good day. I'll catch up with you again in early February. And once again, thank you to Dan Broughton for supporting this programme.